Okay, so today we're gonna have figure out what to do when we have variables on both sides of the equal sign. So I want to start out with a rule that we're familiar with, but is going to be important for today. So this is a reminder. All right, our reminder is that operations need to be performed on both sides of the equal sign to keep the equation balanced. Okay. We are going to use that principle today. Yeah, Megan. Here? Oh, sorry. You have the timer in front of it. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna use this principle to solve equations with variables on both sides. And we're gonna start out super basic. So let's take a look at this example. You have 3a is equal to 2a plus 3. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to subtract the whole thing, including the variable, 2a from both sides. Okay, so far we've only ever done it with numbers, but there's no reason why we can't subtract variables as well, as long as we're doing the same thing to both sides. Okay, and then what happens is 2a minus 2a is 0. That completely cancels out. And what you're left with is 3 over here. Then 3a minus 2a is just a. I know, mind blown, right? All right. And as usual, we're going to check our answers. Now I want to make sure that I'm plugging it into the original equation. So this is going to be 3 times 3 instead of 3 times a. And 2 times 3 plus 3. And then we'll simplify it. This is 9. This is 6 plus 3. 9 is equal to 9. So we're good. We know that 3 is the correct solution. Okay. Okay, let's try another basic example. We have 3v minus 8 is equal to 7 plus 8v. Now, I like to choose what I subtract both sides from both sides based on whether it's going to give me a positive or a negative. For example, if I subtract 3v from both sides, then I'm going to end up with a positive 5v. If I chose to subtract 8v from both sides, I would end up with a negative 5v. But I don't like negatives. It's so much easier if everything is positive. So I'm going to choose to subtract my 3v because it's going to make my numbers nicer. Okay, so this is going to cancel out. and I have negative 8 is equal to 7 plus 5v. Okay, you can always, I can give you a copy of the notes to finish up when, if you want, because I'm going to move it up here in just a minute. Okay, now we've got a simple two-step equation. So I'm going to subtract 7 from here and from here. And I get that negative 15 is equal to 5v. Then I will divide both sides by 5. And I will get that negative, oops, sorry, this is negative 3 is equal to v. Let me set this up a little bit. Okay. Now, you're probably have this burning question. Maybe you don't, but I'd like to think that you have this burning question. What would have happened if I subtracted 8v from both sides? So, let's check it out and see. I'm going to take the same equation. You don't have to write it down, but yes, we're going to follow along. Just follow along. Okay, I'm going to, instead of subtracting 3v like I did last time, this time I'm going to subtract 8v. I just want to show you what happens when you choose it a different way to solve it. 3v minus 8v is negative 5v minus 8 is equal to 7. Now, again, I have a two-step equation. So I'm going to add 8 here. I'm going to add 8 here. And I have negative 5v is equal to 15. Divide both sides by negative 5. And I get that v is equal to negative 3. So it didn't matter, right? You got this. There's only one solution to that equation, and it doesn't matter which way you start. You will still get the same solution, okay? But I do like to, eliminate as many negatives as possible. So I'm going to have you guys practice this before we move on, because we're going to put some grouping and some combining like terms in with this in just a minute. But I want to make sure you're good before we move on. All right, try those two problems. guys, what'd you get for number 1? What'd you get for number 2? Fantastic. Okay, I'm just going to quickly make sure that I have the steps in. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Can I just say, it's been like 2 weeks since I've had to use whiteout. That's like a huge win. It's math teacher goals to not have to white out. Okay. I'm going to subtract 3n. There we go. That's better. And I will get 16 is equal to 4n. Divide both sides by 4, and you get that 4 is equal to n. Looks good. On this one, I like to make sure that my things are positive. I accidentally put a plus sign there. So I'm going to subtract 2a from both sides, and I end up with 3a minus 5 is equal to 7. Add 5, divided by 3, and there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to add in the other steps, because so far we've just been focusing on what it looks like with variables on both sides. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in that grouping, some parentheses, and some like terms to be combined. So let's take a look at this example. Okay. Now, you do not want to start moving your variables around until you have completely simplified both sides. So that means you have to distribute, you have to combine like terms, and then we can start moving those variables, okay? So let's do that. If you remember back from yesterday, our first step was to distribute. That hasn't changed. So I'm going to distribute this right here. So negative 2 times 5n is negative 10n. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. And then this side I'm not doing anything with yet. Then I'm going to combine like terms here. We have negative 2 and positive 6. So this will be negative 10n plus 4. And nothing has changed over here, so I'm just going to bring it down. Okay. Now that I've distributed, I've combined like terms. Now I can move my variables around. Okay. Now, if I were to subtract 4n from both sides, I would get negative 14n over here. Or I can add 10n, and I'll end up with a nice positive number over here. So that's what I'm going to do. I like my positives, so I'm going to add 10n. This will cancel out, and I'll be left with 4 on this side. And negative 38 plus 14n on the other side. And I'm going to just solve my two-step equation now. I'm going to add 38. So this is going to be 42 is equal to 14n. Divide both sides by 14. And I'm going to get that 3 is equal to n. Okay. Now notice that took like what, 9, 10 lines of work, okay? That is so many opportunities for a mistake. So it would be a mistake not to check your answer because you might have missed something important. So we are going to check it. And I'm running out of space because this margin over here is not very big. So I'm going to cram it all in. So I'm going to do negative 2 minus 2 times 5. Now we decided that n was 3. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 3 minus 3. Woo, just barely fit. Sorry, I'll zoom in on that a little bit so that you can see it because I wrote it so small and cramped, okay? Now I'm gonna use order of operations to simplify this. So I'm gonna do my grouping first, and I'm gonna do the first operation of my grouping would be multiplication and then subtraction. And then on this side, I can just multiply and then I'll add. So I'll multiply and get 12 there. I'm going to keep simplifying over here. 15 minus 3 is 12. Negative 38 plus 12 is a negative 26. I'm going to multiply here. So this will be negative 2 minus 24. And yeah, 26, negative 26 is equal to negative 26. So I know that n is equal to 3. Okay, so what we're going to do before you start your homework is we're going to write down the steps for solving. And I recommend that you have the steps out while you're doing your homework so that you don't get lost, okay? It's when people start doing things out of order that it becomes a real mess. All right, steps for solving. All right, just like yesterday, our first step is going to be to distribute. Because like I said before, we want to simplify both sides completely before we start moving variables around. Okay, first step is distribute. Second step, combine like terms. Okay, third step. Now that we have both sides simplified completely because we've distributed and we've combined like terms, we're going to move the variables around. Okay, so move variables to one side of the equal sign. And at that point, you have a simple two-step equation. So step 4 is to solve the two-step equation. Okay, on your homework tonight, there are 2 questions that give you fractional answers. You can either write in your answer as a fraction or a decimal. I have set it up to receive both, okay? So just go ahead and get started. Let me know if you need anything. I'll walk around and help you guys. You have like about 10 minutes to work.